Is Tyreek Hill trying to convince Jalen Ramsey to stay in Miami? It sure sounds like he's going to try. We'll discuss that and if it's even feasible. Also, Jaire Alexander considered coming to the Miami Dolphins before he signed with the Baltimore Ravens. We'll discuss that report as well. And as much as Tyreek is trying to convince Jalen Ramsey, apparently, ESPN reports that Jalen Ramsey and a trade for him is the next domino to fall. We're going to discuss the Dolphins culture and so much more. Do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, and as always, let's get into this.
Loses the football. The touchdown. Got it. You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score. Field down the near side, man open. Touchdown. The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown. He's going deep. It's going to open a touchdown again. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We're back here for another one, as y'all are still hungover, probably from celebrating with the Florida Panthers down in South Florida as they won back-to-back championships. Congrats to all of you. Shout out to everyone in the chat showing up. I see a lot of the usual suspects like the homie PL, Marino's GOAT, Kevin Williams, Aladino, B-Rob, Charles Hilton, Robert Thompson, 1017 Man, Corey Walker, the homie Chuck, R. Lorenzo, Chris Smith, Pendas, Daddy Dean, Jacques, Dolphin Man Jared. What's going on, everyone in the chat? I appreciate y'all for showing up. Over 100 of you already in the chat. And listen, we got a few things I want to talk about, but we got to start here because, you know, transparency is what I give you guys. It's always been what I ain't never been afraid of nothing. I've never hid nothing. I've never been afraid of nothing. So, what's going on? Go check out the dive bar there in the chat right now. Go give them a subscribe on this beautiful Sunday. Listen, here's the deal. I'm minding my own business. I'm going to tell you what time it is. You know, kids go away to grandma's on Friday. Me and the wife got the house to ourselves. And I'm minding my own business. I'm doing my own thing, man. And, you know, my phone starts blowing up about a tweet that was sent out. And it was clearly a subliminal shot at me. So, I guess I saw someone in the chat here. I believe it was Robert. Was it Robert Thomason? I think it was Robert Thomason. He said, I see Nomar Kelly has gone to calling Reason the Grumpy Canadian. No, he's actually talking about Poupart, and someone asked for clarification, and that's where I had a little shot thrown my way, and it was, there's only one legit Canadian talking about the Dolphins, and he said with a gif, no reason. You know, I'm minding my own business. Remember, you know, these people out here claimed I was the one out here for clout and clicks when all I was doing was speaking my truth. Well, here we are weeks removed and these people are still talking about it. All right. So now when you're going to question my credibility and how legit I am, I'm going to answer and I'm going to shoot back. I'm going to fire back. That's just what I'm going to do. All right. Don't play with me. And I'm going to show you. I put it on Twitter. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to show you. Here are screenshots from last September. I told you guys these existed. Of last September, here are screenshots of me giving Omar the heads up that new money for Jalen Ramsey was coming. And you're going to see it right in front of your eyes. He's denying it. He's pushing back on it. Blah, 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 blah. I even say Patrick Surtain's new money might hold this up for a few days. Then you see me respond to him with a smirking emoji and him saying, you are right. All right? I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. When you're going to question how legit I am and how credible I am, I'm going to show everyone what the kid from Canada, who's thousands of miles away, can do compared to the guys who are local. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Just be happy I'm not domestic because I'd take your job. All right? Here we go. September 4th. This is me. I'm the Blue. I assume you're at practice today. Let me know or tweet out whether Ramsey is on the field practicing or not if you can. If he is, I believe that means new money is coming his way with an extension of a restructure of those void years. He said this is an injury, nothing to do with his money. Dolphins are paying Ramsey like $25 million this season and already paid it. If it was going to be a new deal, it would have already been done already. So then I say, I heard they had a deal agreed upon last night at $22 million a year, but Surtain's deal this morning has changed it. And I say, I don't know. I'm hearing this stuff privately from a very reliable source who said it's not an injury, but a quiet hold-in seeking financial security because there's 3 void years after this season. He said, not likely. Dolphins just paid him $24 million in lump sum. You don't think they would have just given him a new deal instead of doing that? He's injured. Been on rehab. I believe he's more injured than they are admitting. All right? This guy, look at this. All right? He's in the building. And so I say, I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. It's the same person for me that told me the day up to his extension around knew that it was going down and, you know, has been a good source. Right? I said, it's because there's void years and no guaranteed money left on the deal. He wants protection. Like I said, apparently they agreed to a $22 million a year term last night, but Surtain's new deal caused a snag. He wants to be the top paid cornerback. I started hearing rumblings about new money from a different source back in July, so it kind of lines up. I do agree they should have just gave him a new deal instead of the restructure. Then here it is, me sending him a wink 2 days later and him saying, you were right. All right? Right there, highlighted, you were right. So how does the kid who's thousands of miles away, all right, and you and your buddy, who's apparently the only legit Canadian, none of y'all knew what was going down, but I did. I gave y'all the heads up. That was free information. You didn't have to pay for that. That was free info. You could have ran with it, and I would have made you look like a genius. But instead, you wanted to be arrogant. You wanted to be ignorant. You wanted to push back. You wanted to deny. It's the same thing as when, I forget what it was, but Neil nailed something a couple months ago, you know, and the way Omar worded it about Neil, like, you know, he called him like, I don't know, he used the word like alleged or something like that. It was very condescending how he referred to Neil. I don't remember, but Neil will know what I'm talking about. He was even very condescending to Neil when Neil publicly nailed something. Right? And this guy quote tweeted, was very condescending. Listen, here's the fact of the matter. They can try and tell you that they are the ones and they are this and they are that, but that's just them grasping at the fact that they know they're losing the audience. That's it. They're all trying to turn you off. And by the way, I hear that he's taking little shots at me and trying to drag Doug into our little stuff, okay? Because I had someone reply to me straight up. And apparently on their show together, the Dolphins Collective or whatever, you know, Doug was talking about coming down for the Jacksonville game like me. And this guy's like, oh, reason, and Omar's like, oh, reason you can't sit with us. Like, bro, who do you think you are, dog? Like, really, who do you think you are? All right? Like, now you're trying to get in the way of friendship. See, once again, I go back to this. I kept it about football. This is now, once again, them dragging it, making it personal. And they had the audacity to claim I wanted the clout or needed the clicks. No, I just spoke my truths. So, and now I'm in response mode. All right? Y'all gonna learn real quick with me. I'm not the one to mess with, man. I'm not the one to test. All right? I am not the one to test. So, and, you know, this has turned into Pusha T versus Travis Scott, and I'm Pusha. All right, and I don't know if this guy's just a masochist and he enjoys pain, but brother, you just keep taking L after L after L after L. I'm handing them out like they're free candy on Halloween, and you just want to keep coming back for more. All right, I still got more. I haven't even unloaded the full clip, so we can keep going. But I don't even like bringing drama into my show, into my platform, but I'm transparent with my people. I'm going to let my sub count know. I'm going to let the people who watch this know exactly what time it is when you're going to come out and question my credibility. You've questioned my pockets. You've questioned my credibility. No more. Done. Done. And I ain't playing anymore. All right? Now, let's keep it going because I do have some actual stuff to talk about that's worth our time. I mean, that was worth the time. That's a good laugh, wasn't it? So, great little stat I saw. Check this one out. Tua Tagovailoa. Now, I'm going to give you good and bad, all right? Good and bad, here we go. Tua Tagovailoa, first QB in team history to start their career with a winning record in each of their first 5 seasons when the starting quarterback. Minimum of 5 starts in a season. Think about that for a second. First quarterback in team history. We had Dan here, didn't we? But now the flip side. Since 2020, Tua is the 5th worst quarterback in prime time and a minimum of 10 games. But you'd be surprised by this list. Check this out. I'll show you the list. Oh, that was fun. Let me show you this right here. All right, there you go. So this is the list. Check this out. It's kind of interesting. Daniel Jones has an 8% win rate. He's 1-12. Derek Carr, 3-10. Baker Mayfield, who you guys know I love. I'm a Baker guy. 3-9. Okay. Geno Smith, 3-8. Stafford, 5-7. You look at Tua Tagovailoa, 5-7. Stafford, look at him, 7-8. Justin Herbert, 10-11. All these guys like Baker, Tua, Stafford, and Herbert are all under 500 in prime time. Right? Like that's kind of wild, man. You know, I didn't think, man, like that's brutal, you know, and that's the good. And now, like at the same time here, you know, like if we go into coaches' records, McDaniel's record isn't going to be that pretty either in prime time. All right. Like, you know, let's be real here for a second. That ain't going to be pretty at all. So I thought that was kind of interesting when I saw that. You know, again, the good and the bad, right? First quarterback in team history to start with, you know, 5 winning seasons under his belt. And then, boom, you look at that. But the prime time the struggles in prime time are real. And we knew that. Right? But look at that. Herbert ain't much better. Stafford, who's won a Super Bowl, ain't much better right now. Right? Baker Mayfield. He's worse. So, I mean, Daniel Jones shouldn't really surprise anyone, you know, like, let's be real there on that one. Speaking of the Giants, or Giants quarterbacks, what's interesting is Jackson Dart is apparently expected to become the Giants starting quarterback at some point this season. And apparently he's really far along, you know? And, you know, Rappaport basically said it's just clearly a matter of when, not if. So my boy Jackson Dart is going to apparently start in year 1. Just please don't ruin him. Please don't ruin this guy. You know, like the ceiling is high on this kid. Please don't ruin him for the love of everything holy. And then Tyreek Hill, we're going to talk about him a little bit here, obviously, in the same interview that I'm going to play a clip from. You know, out here running his mouth against the Bills, he said, quote, "Whenever we play the Bills, those guys typically play cover 4 because they're a bunch of bitches." Tyreek. Okay. We sat here and had to endure a lineman, right? I believe it was Dawkins, from the Bills a couple off seasons ago, going into a Miami Dolphins section and tearing the clothes down and throwing them on the floor, and you guys couldn't go out and sweep them. Now we are out here. Now we are out here talking mad smack and calling them names. Like, bro, like, we already haven't been able to cash these checks. Now we're going to go this far. Now we're going to start, like, come on, man. You know, like, and also you're probably the last one who should be writing checks for us right now. Like, let's be real here. All right. Like, man, you better have a season. I tell you this much. Appreciate you, Joshua. Thank you, sir. Salute. I love my subs like you, man. Appreciate you. Brother, I don't think it's happening, bro. I don't think it's happening. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one, you know? So, by the way, to all my, I guess, Bahamian fans, all my fans from Bahamas, I will be back there in August for my 10-year wedding anniversary. Can't wait to see y'all. All right. So, let's get into this stuff, all right? So, a lot of Jalen Ramsey stuff to really go over here, and then we're going to talk about the culture, because I'm trying to avoid talking about this culture stuff, because we're so in, like, you know, we're in such a gotta see it to believe it mode, you know? Like, I just, you know, I've kind of tried to avoid it, but, you know, Dougley posted a snippet of something, and I got the article here, and even a part that he didn't post is even damning. Like, we'll talk about all that, okay? So let's start off with Tyreek Hill. This is what Tyreek Hill said, and we're going to start off with Jalen Ramsey. We're going to start off with corners here, really, okay? Appreciate you, Rob, enjoying the Panthers parade while watching you, man. Appreciate you. Enjoy it, man. Enjoy. Nothing like a Stanley Cup parade, I tell you. No one can party like hockey players, all right? Let me tell you that. I remember the Penguins Stanley Cup parades and just the young guys just getting absolutely smashed on the route. It's absolutely hilarious. So this is Tyreek, all right? He was at Fanatics Fan Fest and is asked about the Ramsey stuff. So here we go. This is what he said.
I'm going to hang out with Ramsey next week, man. So I'm going to get him back and go more press. Full court press. I'm getting the Ramsey back in the Dolphins jersey. I don't care what they say. Tampering, whatever. Hell yeah. But we need Ramsey, dog. He's a dog. He's one of the best corners in the league, man. Great leader, a great teammate too, though. So that's what he doesn't get a lot of credit for, man. Because me and him both were on your team, and we just need him on the Dolphins, man.
So you hear him. He said he's a great teammate. He said we need him on the Dolphins twice. He said we need him twice. He said he's going to be meeting him with his next week, and he's going to be trying to convince him to stay with the Miami Dolphins. Now, I know people are going to get kind of excited about this. Oh, maybe Tyreek's going to pull a miracle. I don't think it's happening. Now, on the flip side, I think a reason why the Pittsburgh stuff hasn't been triggered yet is because of his desire to go to the West Coast. He doesn't want to go to Pittsburgh. All right. He wants kind of nothing, you know, I don't want to say nothing to do with Pittsburgh, but he doesn't want to go to Pittsburgh. All right. Like, you don't want to go play in that weather. All right. You know, like, look at where he's played his whole career. You know what I mean? Like, even from college, nothing but warm weather. So I know the audio was kind of hard to hear, but you can go back and listen to it. But the gist of it is basically, he says, I want to keep him in aqua and orange. He says, I'm going to try and convince him to stay with the Miami Dolphins, and I'm meeting with him soon, right? Next week, I believe is what he said. And he said twice that we need him in Miami. And he also called him a good teammate. So, and he called him a good leader, and, you know, he said he's still a really good player, et cetera, et cetera. So, it was nothing but an endorsement, but I'm going to tell you right now, don't get your hopes up. I mean, the problem is, I mean, you guys have heard Mike McDaniel talk about this. Mike McDaniel is done with Jalen Ramsey. You know, like, and if Mike McDaniel is done with Jalen Ramsey, obviously something happened that was irreparable. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, look at all the stuff Tyreek's done, and Have you seen McDaniel sever that relationship? No. He keeps trying to make it work for him. Right? So, I don't know. It's nice to talk about. It's nice to think about, but the reality of the situation is this. It's over and done with. It's a failed experiment. It didn't work. Now it's time to try and just get the best outcome possible from a trade perspective. That's literally where we're at. And I mean, look at Joshua, Can we even trust Tyreek? No, Now, I'm sure he's meeting with him. I'm sure he's going to try and tell him, hey, no trades happen. Stick. If it don't work, I'm leaving next offseason. You can leave, etc., etc. I'm sure he's going to try. But again, I go back to Mike McDaniel. Let's say Tyreek convinces Jalen Ramsey. I mean, y'all have heard Mike McDaniel talk about this. He literally said nothing has changed from my standpoint. Like, okay, so do we really think that Tyreek is going to be able to, one, convince Jalen Ramsey to stay, then to be able to turn around, bring Jalen to Mike's office and say, hey, I convinced him to stay, and then now he's got to convince Mike McDaniel? I don't know about that, especially when, again, I've said this before, if he had a tradable contract, would Tyreek even be here right now? And at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to be here, he's got to go. But see, now you get torn, right? Like, let me put this in the chat right now. Let's put this in the chat right now, okay? We're going to start a poll, all right? And would you want Ramsey to stay if Tyreek convinced him? I want to hear what you guys have to say, all right? And if you are watching this after the fact, let me know. If Tyreek Hill was able to convince Jalen Ramsey, would you even want him to stay after everything that's gone down? So I got it in the chat right now. Would you want Ramsey to stay if Tyreek convinced him? All right. So we're already at 25-ish votes, right? And it's overwhelmingly a yes. Dude, it's hilarious, man. It's like, how quickly we will forgive and forget, man. It's really like a marriage, huh? So, it's 70-30 right now, and we got about 40 votes and climbing. So that's a real question. It's hard. It's tough because this guy is basically openly advocated for his getting out of here. The guy did a countdown on Twitter, 5 days before June 1st. We know he wants to go back to the Rams. We even know where he wants to go. And he's talking to other, there's tampering going on. It is what it is. This is just where we're at. But at the same time, the outlook is so bleak in that corner room, and it's not for a lack of talent or these kids aren't good. We don't know what they are. There's so much uncertainty. That's just the fact of the matter. We don't know what Isaiah Johnson is, right? We've seen him be a warrior in practice, but okay. Cam Smith, is he ever going to look like he did on the South Carolina film? Is it ever going to happen? Is it ever going to translate? Because he hasn't shown us the work ethic. He hasn't shown us the desire. He hasn't shown us the drive to become a viable starter in the NFL this month, let alone his injury history, right? Is Storm Duck going to take another step? Is BJ Adams, who they were high on through the draft process, is he all of a sudden going to show up and be something? Is Jason Marshall going to look better than what he did the majority of his time at Florida? Is he going to look more like the highly touted recruit he was coming out of high school as opposed to the failed project he looked like he was in Florida? I don't know. Now, the safety room, I've said this the whole time, I'm okay with if they stay healthy. Melifonu's going to be fine. Davis will be fine. Another year of Patrick McMorris after what we saw last year. Color me intrigued, right? And Dante Trader's making plays already as a young kid. I'm okay with the safety room a lot more than I am right now with this corner room because, basically we're going to need Cater to step up as a number one, and we're going to need Artie Burns if Cater goes out to the boundary more and primarily plays out there, because he started to look better on the film the last 8 games of last season. You could tell the light was turning on. Things were starting to click. But Artie Burns is going to have to give us decent play from the slot if we're going to be depending on a guy like that in there. So, there's a lot more uncertainty in that corner room right now. And so I would understand if people want to keep Ramsey because of that uncertainty. I mean, we got 63 votes right now, and it's 75-25 in favor of keeping Jalen Ramsey if Tyreek convinced him. And it's a tough situation to be in. I get both sides. I get both sides. You can look at it from a standpoint of, man, this guy was flirting with other teams. He doesn't want to be here. He wants to go to LA. Do we really want this disgruntled guy in here? You know what I mean? I get that, because that could, again, impact this culture they keep talking about they're trying to fix. So I get that argument. But on the flip side, I get if someone says, yo, we are so depleted at corner, and it's such a bleak outlook. Can we afford to get rid of him without someone? Even if Asante Samuel comes in here with that neck surgery he just had, he's the wrong hit away from not just going on the IR, but it could be career over. Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, guys who are over the hill and the prime is behind them. They're not bona fide number ones anymore. Especially, I'm going to tell you this much. If you want to go more man, as what I've quietly heard they want to, is Rasul Douglas an ideal fit for that? So, yeah. I would not want Xavier Howard back. Howard's been out of football Howard's been out of football for over a year. All right. The lower body extremity injuries were starting to stack up. Houston tried him out last year and decided to pass on him. I honestly personally think Howard might be blackballed a little bit because of sending those lewd pictures to that boy of his mother in like some revenge type of thing. I want nothing to do with Xavier Howard, man. His body was starting to break down, and he's been out of football for over a year. Never goes well for players like that. Never goes well. So I'm good on that. I would prefer Ramsey over Howard 7 days a week and twice on Sunday, which is today. So over 250 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Appreciate y'all coming through. So that is what was said by Tyreek. He's trying to convince him. All right. I'll keep that poll up there. But Jeremy Fowler, we're going to get into a few things he said here. Number one, he had something totally different to say regarding Jalen Ramsey. All right. And this is what he had to say.
Yes, so we don't have to wait for our senior NFL insider, Jeremy Fowler, as he joins us here on SportsCenter. And look, the Dolphins have been trying to trade away their superstar cornerback, Jalen Ramsey, since the beginning of the offseason. What is the latest that you were hearing about Ramsey?
Yeah, Shay, did you say 25 days, by the way? We have like no summer. It's so short. But
I didn't mean to spoil the party here, Jeremy.
In that meantime, though, the Dolphins are going to try to trade Jalen Ramsey. This is the next domino to drop league-wide. When you talk to other teams, this is the next big move that is anticipated around the NFL. The Dolphins are optimistic that they can work out a deal with Ramsey. Nothing hard and fast development or imminent right now, but they've talked to multiple teams in recent weeks and months. The LA Rams are believed to be still sort of in the mix here. At least that's a team that others have identified as just the perfect fit. You know, they have a need. They're familiar with the player. They've won a Super Bowl with him. So we'll see. But the hang-up still is that big-time money he's got on his contract, $20+ million guaranteed for 2025. Teams have a hard time reconciling how much they're going to have to pay at that contract.
And he's not coming off his best year, right? Last year was the first time he missed the Pro Bowl since his rookie season, so something to keep in mind.
Yes, the money that I tried to give Omar a heads up on is what's holding up this whole situation. Gotta love it. But you heard Jalen Ramsey is the next domino to fall league-wide. That's what is believed. So, again, I go back to what Schefter had said when he talked about Ramsey's preference to be on the West Coast. He said, Schefter in one side of his mouth says, I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow, next week, or before a training camp. Then on the other side of his mouth, a second later, he says, I expect it to happen before training camp. And now when you hear league-wide, see, this is why I don't think there's a chance of convincing him. Everyone knows that this is the next thing to happen, including Ramsey's camp. So if he's this close to getting out of here, do you really think he's going to say, I'm good. It was a fun song and dance, but no, I'm good. You really think that's going to happen? No, that's not going to happen. That's over. So, again, tied to the LA Rams, that's clearly the destination we're trying to work something out with. I mean, it's obvious, right? You hear McVay. How many times have we talked about McVay having some quote about the whole situation? We've talked about it over and over again. McVay keeps getting asked about it because it's pretty much understood in the building how hard they're trying to work with it. Listen, this is where I'm at. If you're going to take like $9 million of that salary, you got to get a fourth. Yeah, I would prefer a third, but you got to get at minimum a fourth. On the flip side, if you can't make it work, do you take a conditional fifth that can turn into a fourth based upon playing time? That's a real question too. So, I don't know. I think, see, again, we go back to the poll question right now, which, we've got almost 100 votes on, and yet 70% of you are saying you would take him back if he's convinced. I mean, now we go back to this. We're this far down the line. Isn't it time to maybe just pull the trigger? And, I mean, we're going to get into it a little bit more here, but with the whole culture stuff, but clearly and again, we might, people listening to this show, people watching this show, we might have people that are in the building or connected very closely and intimately to the building that, tell us one thing. And then on the flip side, it could be a whole totally other thing. In terms of what I'm mentioning is this. I've heard, and I've told you guys I've heard this, that where the rift really started was McDaniel, he had his leaders on offense and defense, and Ramsey became kind of like, the head leader on defense, obviously, where, McDaniel would convey things to his leaders to convey to their units, et cetera, et cetera. And then he kind of, turned on Ramsey a little bit, when things weren't going well for the culture, right? He started calling out Ramsey in front of everyone at at morning meetings, whatever the case may be. It started calling him out. And now, Ramsey took offense to that, and now it's snowballed into this, and clearly some things were said because, you got to think about this. Is McDaniel just going to be the way he is and cold and calculated with Jalen Ramsey just because Jalen Ramsey would tell him, hey, I don't like the way you're calling me out and talk to him? No. Clearly, something happened. And they've talked about, and we'll get into the things that Lamm said, but they've talked about people not taking it seriously, toxicity and stuff like that. And for all intents and purposes, clearly they are viewing Ramsey as one of those guys who's toxic to their culture. So it is what it is. Now, Jaire Alexander, this is very, very interesting because you can remember that Barry Jackson had reported that the Miami Dolphins checked in on Jaire Alexander but weren't willing to make an offer due to Jalen Ramsey still being on the roster, which I said, this doesn't make sense. Rasul Douglas is on the roster. I'm sorry. Jalen was on the roster when they made a deal to when they made an offer to Rasul Douglas, which Rasul will turn down. What sense does this make? This doesn't make any sense. Well, I don't know. We got to keep digging into this one, and I'm going to start digging into this behind the scenes a little bit to figure something out, because I want you to listen to what Jeremy Fowler said about the Jaire Alexander situation, because for a team that didn't make an offer because Jalen Ramsey was on the roster, what Jeremy Fowler said doesn't make sense. Check this one out.
Senior NFL writer, that is Jeremy Fowler, joining us now. How did this deal come together over the last couple weeks?
Yeah, Kevin, the Ravens actually first checked in on Jaire Alexander back in March when he was available via trade, kept tabs on and nothing came through. So then when he got cut, GM Eric DeCosta called that first day to gauge the market. And then he got heavily recruited by Ravens. Not only Lamar Jackson, his ex-Louisville teammate, but Ronnie Stanley, Marlon Humphrey, other Ravens were involved. Like, hey, man, we need you. You're a missing piece for us on this defense. So then it heated up. I was told he went to visit with the team Wednesday and was non-committal. He said, I just want to meet the guys, be around the team. A few hours later, he had committed. So I was told the Atlanta Falcons were a team that he looked at, as well as the Miami Dolphins. But in the end, Ravens were the clear-cut favorites.
Saw a lot of smiles in that camp this week with the news of Alexander joining the team.
So the only other teams Jeremy Fowler names that he considered were the Atlanta Falcons and the Miami Dolphins. So, hold on, let me get this straight. Chris Grier is such a word wizard, he must be, that they said, yeah, we can't make you an offer, but they put him in a position where he still considered them? Am I the only one who thinks this doesn't make sense? Like, what's going on here? If a team, listen to this. Okay, check this one out. Your job, all right? Let's say you're not happy with your job and you're handing out resumes, all right? And someone calls you, right? You get a reply from a job, okay? And they're looking and you're actively looking, like you want to go somewhere else. And some place picked up your resume and they call you and they say, listen, we really like you for the job, but right now we have someone in that department and they're stopping us from making an offer. But just know we are really interested in you. Okay. You get that call. What are you going to say to yourself? What are you going to say? You're not going to say, oh man, I got a job offer today, man. I got to really sit down and think about that. No, you're going to write that off as, okay, that's a waste of my time. I need a new job now. I can't wait for that to be figured out. I need something now. So what, did the Atlanta Falcons do the same? Did they call him and say, yeah, we got too many guys on the roster? Like, why were they name dropped by Jeremy Fowler too? Clearly, there were deeper conversations. That's all I'm saying. Now, I haven't looked into anything after the Jaire thing happened with Baltimore. But then when you hear Jeremy Fowler name drop only us and the Atlanta Falcons, when apparently we only told Jaire Alexander, we only checked in on him, and then we weren't willing to make an offer because Jalen Ramsey's on the roster, that makes no sense. Like, that makes zero sense whatsoever. It was basically framed as they checked in, but it didn't get any farther than checking in. But yet, we were one of the teams this guy was considering, us in Atlanta. I don't know. And because clearly he wanted something done fast. So if they would have called him and said that, him and his camp probably would have said, well, we're looking to sign soon. We're not looking to wait around to training camp. So that's not even a consideration. That's turning them down right away. I don't know. Something isn't lining up here. I don't know what it is, but something isn't lining up. Something doesn't. And again, I haven't checked in on the Jaire situation since he signed with Baltimore, because why would I? But clearly I got to do some digging here, because something isn't adding up here for me. I don't know what it is, but something isn't adding up. It just makes no sense. Why would we be name dropped if we inquired and didn't even make an offer? So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. Guys, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Over 320 of you in the room. Appreciate y'all spending some time. I'm going to get out of here, and I'll be back this week. I hope all of you enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, whenever you're watching this. And as always, you know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. See you on the next one.